So hello everyone, welcome to this video. Today we are going to make a click effect. We are not making any hover effect which we made before. Today we are going to make a click effect. Whenever I will click this button, it will create this effect as you can see. So it is not a simple circle growing up effect. So if I click in this corner, as you can see that we have a tracking going on. However, I will click in this button, it will create the circle in the background in this click point. You can see, which is looking so much amazing. So in this video we are going to make this click effect, and if you are new to my channel, please do subscribe so that you can get more video like this one. So I will see you in the end of the video. So no more talk, let's dive into the video. So here, as you can see that here is my HTML and CSS and JS file. So all are empty as you can see. So first of all, in our HTML, let's create a boilerplate and let's name it click effect. And in the body, let's create a div with a class of container. And in this container, we will have our button. So for the text, we will have click me. And that's all for our HTML. So let's come to our CSS. So before that, let's come here and link our style sheet. So link. So that's the image as we can see. So we linked our style sheet. So in our style.css, first of all, let's remove all the unexpected gap. So let's give it padding 0 and margin 0, and box sizing will be border box. So that's fine. If I open my HTML file with live server, so here as you can see that this is our live site and here is our click me button. So here in our CSS file, in the top of our CSS file, let's paste our import tag for our Montserrat font. So you can get the link from the Google Fonts. So come here in the container. Let's say that padding, let's say that display will be flex and align items will be center and justify content will be center, and also min height will be 100 VH. So as you can see that our content, which is this click me button, is now in center. So also let's say that width will be 100%. Fine. So let's come to our button. So in the button, let's say that I will have a padding of about 20 pixel and for the left and right 50 pixel. So as you can see, that's our button, and also say that font size will be 2 rem and overflow will be hidden. So after that, let's say that background will be transparent, and also let's make a border will be 1 pixel solid and black, and outline will be none, so there will be no outline, and make sure that the font family will be Montserrat. So that's it. As you can see, this is our button. So after that, for our click effect, let's create a span inside our button. So it will be an empty span as you can see. So let's style this span. So button span, and let's say that position of this span will be absolute. So let's also make this button position relative. So that's how it will work. So let's say that height will be 100% and width will be 100%, and also say that top will be 0 and left will be 0, so it will position it in the top left corner. So let's make also, let's have a background color of crimson. So now as you can see, we can't see our button text, so let's bring back our button text. So for that, let's make it z index of -1, and for the button z index of 1. So as you can see that we can see our button, so that's looking fine. So let's make this span round. So let's say that border radius will be 50%. Now as you can see that this is round, but this is not a perfect circle. So for that we need to use a absolute height and width. Let's say that 450 pixel, and also for the width 450 pixel. So now as you can see, we have this circle which is a big circle, and only we have this portion of this circle. So if you want, you can make a smaller circle. Let's say that as you can see, this is now a smaller, so that's fine. So let's say that what I need is, I need to animate this span when I will click it. So first of all, let's create the animation. So in here, keyframes, and let's name it button animation. And here let's say that in 0%. So in 0% we will have an opacity of 0, and also we will have a transform. So before that, if you notice that this circle is not now in center position of our button. So to make it center, what I need is, I need to make this top 50% and also the left 50%. So as you can see, this is still not in our center, so we need to make a transform and translate -50%, and for the y also -50%. So now as you can see that it is in center, we can't see it. So let's make the scale a little bit of lower. Let's make it 0.2. So as you can see that we scale down the whole span. So now as you can see that it is centered in the button. So let's remove this. Now we know that our circle is in center. So let's come to our keyframes. Let's say that for the transform, we need to copy this whole transform, and also here let's say that the scale will be the 0. So for the initial state, we will have a scale of 0, and when it will be 100% of animation, we will scale it up, and also we will make this opacity 1. So if I paste it and change it to 1, and also the scale will be the 1. So that's our animation. So let's apply it. So for now, let's make a hover effect so that we can test it out. So button hover. So whenever we will hover this, the span will have this animation. So the animation name, and the animation name is button animation, and it will be let's say that 1 second and is. And here as you can say, we have this animation, but when I am not hovering it, we have this circle or this crimson color in the background, so we don't want it. So let's say that the opacity of the span will be the 0 in our initial state. So now as you can see, we have this. So let's also make this animation a little bit advanced. So let's say that when we will have in 30% of our animation, the opacity will be the 1, and when we will go back to 100%, it will turn back the opacity 0. So let's see how it will look. Now we can see that we have this fade in effect. So that's it. So I think it's looking better, as you can see that. Fine. If you want, you can decrease the opacity of this color. Let's make a 0.4. As you can see that the opacity of this color is now kind of lower. So this is looking good. I think we should increase the height also. Let's make it 350. looking much better. So how we can apply it in our click event? So for that we will need our main.js. So first of all, link this main.js in our HTML. So script source is main.js. So in our main.js, what we need is we need to select our button. So button document dot query selector, and we can select this easily, saying that it is in the container. We have a button, so that's fine. So in this button we will have a add event listener, and the event will be a click event. So whenever there will be a click, and what it will do, it will run this function. So let's create this arrow function, and let's say that we will console log a test. So let's run it. So if I open our console log here, and whenever I will click, as you can see that we have this text console log here. So everything is working fine. Whenever I will click, there will be this text. So let's say that instead of this text, what we want is we want to create a HTML element, which is actually this span element. We want to create this span element on the fly when we will click. So let's remove this span element from here. So we will create this on the fly when we will click. So now there is no span element, but in our JavaScript, let's create this. So let's say that let overlay, let's name this span overlay and create a span. So let's say that document dot create element, and here let's say that we will create a span element. So now this is the span element, and here what I need is I need to set some style for this span. So if you notice that we already did the style here, so what I can do is I can copy this style and paste it in our JS. So for that, what I need to do is I need to say that overlay dot style dot css text, and here we will have this style. So let's give it backticks, and between these backticks we can paste our whole span style. So paste it, so it will be the same as our span. So let's remove this from here, we do not need this anymore. So we have a span, which is this one, and also we have the style for this span. So the next thing what I need is I need to implement it in our HTML. So where we want to append this in our HTML. So we know that we have a button, which is this one, and we want this span inside this button. So it will be simple. Let's say that button dot append child, and which one we want to append, which is the overlay. As you can see, this is the overlay. So if I save it and open our Chrome tool here, as you can see, this is our container and this is our button. And if I click this, as you can see that we have this span. This is the span, and which have a whole style. So if I click once again, as you can see, we have another span and another span. So which is looking fine. In our style.css, let's remove this. We don't want it. So as you can see, this is the result we have now. We have so many span, and also we have this button. But what I need is we want the animation. So what I can do is I can say that in our span here, so you can add animation here, as you can use the animation in the style.css. So for that, let's create the animation property, and the value will be the name, so which is the button animation. And here let's say that it will be 1 second and it will be is. So that's fine. So if I open it, so now as you can see that in our button we don't have any span, but whenever I will click we have this animation and also we have this span. So perfect, as you can see we have this animation and also there is the span for the click. But the problem is, as you can see, whenever I click they are adding a span and it is not removing itself, but whenever I will refresh it will remove, as you can see. So that's not the problem. The problem is whenever I will click they are adding the span but we can't remove it. So that's not a good practice to leave this span here. So let's say that whenever we will end our animation we will remove this span from our HTML. So this will be a simple thing what we can do. So let's say that in our overlay dot add event listener, so let's say that in our overlay whenever we will end the animation we will remove the span itself. So let's say, so for that in our overlay we will need to add an event listener and the event will be animation end. So whenever the animation will end this event will fire this function. So in this function what we will do is we will say that e dot target, which is the element dot target dot remove. So it will remove the target. So as you can see we have this e which means the element, so we need to pass it from here also. So it will target the overlay and remove it. So that's how this e dot target work. So the event target, which is this overlay, and we will remove it when this animation will be end. So let's try it. So let's come to our element, and here as you can see that this is our button. So whenever I will click we have this button, and as you can see that if you notice it, let me click once again. When I am clicking we have this span and we don't have this span anymore. So let me click multiple so that we can show you. So as you can see that it's happening so much quickly, so I cannot show you. So let me try it once again. So let's create so many span, and if I we can't. So if you notice that we don't have any child element in this button, which means it is actually removed this all the child element, which is the span, automatically. So that's what we want. So that's fine. Now we don't have any child element. Whenever I will click it will create the child element, and whenever the animation will end it will remove itself, as you can see here. So perfect. So the last thing is, so the last thing what I want is I want to make this animation when I will click and also where I will click. So in this time as you can see whenever I will click it will start this animation from the center, but I don't want it. I want it wherever I will click. Let's say that I will click this corner and I want to begin this animation from this corner, so it will be good. So for that what I need is I need to make sure about this top and left. I need to change this top and left according to my click. So for that I need to pass the event here, and whenever I will pass this event what we can have is we have all the thing. So what we will have in this event, let me console log it so that we can show you. So let's console log this event, and if I come here console log, so let's click it. So as you can see that this is the e element, which is the event, and here if you can notice that we have something like client X or client Y, which is the basically whenever I will click it will calculate the click from the top and from the left. Let's say that I will click here. If I open this second one, as you can see that the client X is 359 and Y is 472, which is different from our the previous one, as you can see, because we clicked these two times in two different places. So what we have is now we have the position of our click in this event. So we need to store this number in a variable. So let's create this left variable and say that we have this e dot client x, and also we have a top which is the y value of client. So we have the top and bottom, and what I need is I need to make sure about this top and left will use this. So how we can implement this left and top variable here, and as you saw that we used backticks here. So what I can do is now I can make a dollar sign and curly brackets here. As you can see, in these curly brackets we are free to use our JavaScript. So let's say that here we will use our left, and for the top also let's make this dollar sign and curly brackets, and between these curly brackets let's say that the value of the left will be, oh okay, I messed up. For the top we need to make sure that it is top, and for the left we need to make sure that the variable left will be here. So that's fine. So let's test it. So as you can see that it is not working, because what I need to do is I need to make sure about the length from the top and bottom. The problem is, as you can see that the client X and the client Y is calculated from the top of our window and from the left of our window. But this top and this left, which is our CSS style, is calculated from our this button and from this left button border. As you can see, this will be the left, but we are calculating this portion. So what I can do is I can remove this extra length from which is calculating from this to this. So now what I can do is I can remove this extra length which is this one. I don't want this length. I want only the length from this button border top and from this button border left. So I can remove this extra length here. So how can we remove it? So it is very simple. So let's come to our left, and here let's say that we need to remove button dot get bonding client rectangle, and what we want is we want the left value, and I will explain it in a moment. Also let's remove it from our top, and for this time we want the top value. So what we are doing here, so as you can see that button dot get client rectangle, which will give us the position of our rectangle, which means this button. So the left position, which is this much length, and the top position, which is this much of length, and it will remove it from our client text, which is actually this whole part. Whenever I will click it from here, it will calculate this whole part from our X. Now what I am doing is whenever I will click it, it will remove this part, which is our button position from the top and the left. And now what we have is we have only the length from our top border to our click point. So as you can see that it is not working properly, as you can see, because we have a problem. So it is giving us this left and top we are using here, so that's totally fine, but we don't have our suffix, which is the pixel. So make sure we remove this gap. So I think it will work perfectly fine. As you can see now, wherever I will click, it will do perfectly what we wanted. So that's it. If you want, you can improve the size of our span. Let's say that 650. Now as you can see that it is now 650. So that's it. That's our click event. So if you like this video or if you like this effect, please give it a thumbs up And don't forget to subscribe this channel if you want to see more video like this one. And that's it. My name is Arfan and I will see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye. Khuda Hafiz.